Hey, guys, welcome to Open Mic this beautiful Tuesday morning. We call it Trump Tuesday here. We want to welcome our Patriot family. We've got the wonderful Camden Benninghouse sitting in for Allie today. I'm Michelle Posey. Thank you for joining us. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe at Open Mic Ladies on all platforms. And wherever you're joining us from, comment down below because we do get those comments and we kind of can respond to them real time. How are you doing today, Camden?
I'm good. I got my coffee. I got everything I need here. I got my Charlie Kirk book behind me up here. He's with us, and we got a good show today.
We do. One of the things I want to get into as we start talking a little bit more about what's being unveiled with Charlie Kirk. I know you made an interesting post this morning, kind of with the foretelling of the impact that the internet and the dark web and being isolated in that mentality, what it can have an effect on people. Charlie Kirk explained it in his book. So we'll get your opinion on that. Plus, guys, we're going to bring some breaking news happening right now with Kash Patel testifying in front of the Oversight Committee. There's some breaking news there. Don't go anywhere. And for now, we're going to go ahead and crack open that mic.
Where we started, we're wearing our red hat tonight. It takes more than just a feeling. Oh, better be believing, and America's gonna be home.
What do you do when they try to cancel you? MAGA Nation, we cancel proof. My red hat stays on. My red hat stays on. You know I love God, but in Trump I trust. November 5th, he gon' ride with us. Our red hat stays on. Our red hat stays on. It's the mayor of MAGA, but the RNC king. 2024, freedom gon' ring. This the red, white, and blue. I'm still fighting for each one of you. And keep your red hat on.
What do you do when they come for you? Freedom's what you gotta lose.
Camden, you're going to have that song in your head all day now.
Oh, I know. I know. It's so catchy.
Every once in a while, it's funny because we have a lot of guys that are behind the scenes here, and it's not a very masculine song by any stretch of the imagination, but they're like humming it and singing it. And you're welcome.
Still catchy.
Well, the goal was to make you talk about Open Mic for the rest of the day, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for joining us. So I want to welcome Camden. He's no stranger to Patriot TV. He's been on our show. The Homefront represents Gen Z and his generation really very well. You've kind of had a heart for this even long before we knew of Turning Point USA and this wonderful organization. So just give our viewers a little rundown of how you became really more politically charged, because I know you've always been someone of faith, but what called you to get involved in understanding current events and being able to talk about it?
Yeah, so Gen Z, there was a gap, I feel like, to fill. There was a lot of people that started being scared about speaking up because of all the things we hear from the media and all of the fear mongering that goes on. So in 2020 is when I really started paying attention with the churches getting closed down because of COVID, the vaccine being mandated, stuff like that sparked my attention to get involved and make a difference. And I was like, God's got to have, more power in this than just letting us be scared, because it says he doesn't give us a spirit of fear, so we can't just live a life in fear. And that's when I started getting involved.
Let me ask you, at your age, because I have a daughter about your age, does your generation, do you feel like you fear this cancel culture? Because I feel like that's why this younger generation was really hesitant to speak out early on, because you want to be nice and you want to be liked, and who doesn't want to be liked? I mean, I can remember my late teens, early 20s, you're still trying to find yourself, and so you generally want to be liked, but that does kind of get overused to silence you if you're somebody who feels like you have a stronger opinion. Did that come into question with you at all, being canceled?
Yeah, it did. It still does every now and then, but even I mean, the social media aspect, our generation is on social media all the time. So back in 2020 to 2022, that time, there was only one thing you could say. Like, social media was very left-leaning before Elon Musk bought X and stuff like that. It was a lot of censorship for conservatives. And so what you saw funneled to you was left-leaning content, left-leaning stuff. And so it was even hard to speak up. But even in person on college campus and stuff, it's still, but it was back then as well as today, a little scary, because these people are violent, and it just keeps being proven to us now. But there is an element of cancel culture it's still in the back of my mind as well.
It's still there. And I feel like it can always be there, especially we've had people here locally that have, they'll come to a school board meeting and just give their opinion of how they feel about a certain policy. And the next day, they have these radical extremists calling their place of business saying you should fire this person. And if you think about something like a school boardroom, you have to maintain a certain level of decorum. So what these people are saying, for myself, when I go speak, you're not using profanity, you're not calling people names. So for somebody to complain about free speech is really interesting. Before we break news, I want to make sure that we talk a little bit. I saw a post that you put out this morning, and I love it was very well worded the way you said it. It was almost like you're reading Charlie Kirk's book and you come across this page that is almost foretelling of the darkness that people would be involved in that would potentially lead to something like his assassination. Tell our viewers a little bit about what you came across in his book.
Yeah, so he wrote a book a few years ago called Right Wing Revolution. And just a few months ago, I was reading this book and I got to a page that was so interesting that I had to take a picture of it. And so I was looking back in my camera roll today and found it again and I just going through my mind, like this was exactly what happened with the shooter now is Charlie Kirk talked about the dangers of being isolated and only going online and kind of like an echo chamber of just darkness because you in the real life and when you guys grew up compared to us, you would get called out if you were a little bit weird. It was like you get knocked back and be like, all right, that's kind of too much. But online now, you are just fed by other people that are like that too. And you kind of start to normalize things that should never be normalized. And it leads down a deep, dark spiral. And that's what Charlie Kirk talked about on page 243 of his book. And I just thought it was so foretelling of exactly what happened with the shooter because the FBI came out and said that he was involved with some dark web stuff and just a spiral of bad things that he learned online.
And I thought that was this is why we love you, Camden, and your generation, really, because you guys are truth seekers. And it gives me bright hope for the future of our country. But this is true, this talk of being isolated. And I know firsthand, because I've seen it in my family, when people get too isolated, that's when the enemy attacks the most. And I think that's why the Bible says we're not to forsake the gathering of the brethren, right? Because people say, oh, I don't have to go to church. And maybe that's how you feel. That's how somebody out there feels. But if you can really get around people, it helps you to not be isolated and start to normalize thought processes that aren't really common. Yeah.
Look at 2020 when there was the lockdowns and the suicide rates that went up when people were isolated. It's all connected. It's obvious. Like if you aren't with people, if you're not getting out there and just talking and being able to express with others and gather with others, then that's what's going to happen. God said we weren't created to be alone in the first place in the very beginning.
Right.
So it's just the same thing today.
Amen. Amen. That's one of the reasons why Allie and I started Open Mic, because we were being so censored everywhere else.
Yeah.
We're grateful to partners like Patriot TV for giving us this platform. They haven't regretted it yet, according to them. So I do want to break some news here. This was actually our dear Allie is traveling today, but she's still working. She sent me this. She's like, hey, this is breaking right now. Kash Patel, obviously FBI Director Kash Patel, is currently testifying in front of the Oversight Committee. And he's got quite a bombshell that he just dropped. I'm going to foreshadow it a little bit and then we'll let you hear it yourself. He's talking about an FBI project that a whistleblower has come forward and told him about called Arctic Frost. It targeted groups like Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. Again, old school FBI prior to Kash Patel, once again, targeting conservative groups. Take a listen to Kash Patel. It's a little lengthy. We're gonna play most of it. Take a listen.
Central American gangs like MS-13. Now, it's well understood that your predecessor left you an FBI infected with politics. I'm going to provide examples of that today, including making public new whistleblower records. At your nomination hearing, I made public records that whistleblowers provide me about Arctic Frost. Arctic Frost was the FBI case opened and approved by antitrust Trump FBI agent Thibault. Arctic Frost then became Jack Smith's elector case against then citizen Trump and now President Trump. These new records show that Arctic Frost was much broader than just an electoral matter. the case was expanded to Republican organizations. Some examples of the group that Ray FBI sought to place under political investigation included the Republican National Committee, Republican Attorney General's Association, and various Trump political groups. In total, 92 Republican targets, including Republican groups and Republican-linked individuals, were placed under investigative scope of Arctic Frost. On that political list was one of Charlie Kirk's groups, Turning Point USA. In other words, Arctic Frost wasn't just a case to politically investigate Trump. It was the vehicle by which partisan FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors could achieve their partisan ends and improperly investigate the entire Republican political apparatus. So today, Senator Johnson and I are making these records public for the entire country to see, and I hope a lot of people are interested in seeing what government can do when various agencies have a political agenda. My investigative work has also exposed the political way in which.
So as that happened live, obviously that is Senator Chuck Grassley, who I can agree with on some things, and some things we still bump heads, but that's the joy and the wonder of politics, right? You shouldn't agree with somebody 100% of the time. Coming out and saying, listen, this was something that Kash Patel realized he inherited. They do have whistleblowers that will confirm this. So here we go, realizing that, again, this is what happens when these agencies become politically charged and politically motivated, and they no longer have the best interests of you and I, right?
Yeah, it has to be integrity first. And I'm not surprised by that. Like, of course, there's going to be things like that. But I have this sort of righteous anger towards the past administration that covered up so many things that could have prevented certain actions today. But since we cover things up and make it political and only put things that make your candidate look good, this is what causes danger for certain groups of people. And that's not something we should normalize.
Well, and I feel like it's kind of something that our pastor hit on it this weekend. That mentality is kind of what made people sort of water down their messaging too, as far as really trying to toe the line on what your opinion was and how you verbalized it, because we've become sort of a nation and a culture that cannot handle somebody who does not agree with you.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's some Turning Point shirts that say something to the effect, I'm probably going to butcher it, but they say something to the effect of, you have a right to be offended, but you have a right to your own opinion, but not a right to be offended. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what I say may not sit well with you, but you don't have a right to take that to a point of complete violence. And we're not going to cover it too much on here because I didn't want to share a lot of it. It's pretty vulgar. Hearing some of the rhetoric still coming out of left-leaning politicians. I'm talking teachers. There's been those on college campuses. They've tried to destroy memorials to Charlie Kirk across the nation. It's like they didn't even skip a beat.
There's never been a more clear picture of right versus wrong, good versus evil when you see things like this. When you see someone celebrating another person's death, that's all you need to know. One side burns down cities. The other side builds up prayer vigils and worship nights and things to honor. The other side tears down, loots stores, burns down buildings. That's all you need to know about the current state of the world. There's a good versus evil. It's so clear to me.
It's very clear. It's very clear. I caught this video. I want to get your response to it. Benny Johnson, who's obviously been a friend of Charlie Kirk's for literally over a decade. Many of these people in that same generation have been. Another independent journalist. We love Benny Johnson here. He was on, I think, Newsmax the other night, and they asked him, who's going to pick up the gauntlet? Who's going to replace, so to speak, Charlie Kirk? His answer was remarkable. I want you to watch this, and I want to get your reaction to it.
Benny, do you have any plans to get more involved with Turning Point USA? Your name has been kind of floated around as somebody who could maybe carry the torch and pick up where Charlie left off, where Charlie was cut short, I should say.
Well, I wasn't expecting this question, but let me give you the correct answer, which is Charlie is one of one.
Right.
Charlie is somebody who's known him for over a decade and worked with him and shared the stage with him across the country and traveled, quite frankly, around the world with Charlie. Let me tell you this. I was witness to a miracle. And perhaps this is the only time in my life I'll be able to say that, a true, proper miracle, which was Charlie Kirk's life. He had a calling, a prophetic calling that can only come from our Lord and Savior. He had a vision as a young man wandering the RNC convention in 2012 when Mitt Romney was running for president, asking for his first donations for Turning Point.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk must have been only 14 years old at that time. What other 14-year-old young men do you find doing that? He was one of one. That is what makes Charlie an American icon, a legend, and someone who can never be replaced. He's somebody who was, in many ways, I believe, a prophet. He's somebody who had a calling on his life, and anybody who was near him understood that. And so there is no replacing Charlie. He was a gift from God to us, and the best that we can possibly do now is learn from his life and to try and carry on that energy in our own.
We will. Benny Johnson, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank
We can bring it back, Krista. Yeah. So I like the way he answered that, but I want to get your response to that. How do you feel about somebody taking over Charlie Kirk's spot?
No, I completely agree with Benny. There's no one person that could just fill the shoes of Charlie Kirk. There's only one Charlie Kirk, right? And when you have someone that's so influential to a generation to be like he said, a one of one like that, you can't replace them, but you can see the impact of how many more people are going to become a voice. They're not going to replace him, but they're going to, I think if we all come together and keep speaking truth and talk about our faith, talk about these issues, talk to people we don't agree with, we can collectively create an impact beyond what he could have ever done by himself going forward. So I think that one person, he was a martyr. And to see even now how many people, I mean, personally, I've seen my own friends and me go ahead and say, we are going to carry this together. We are Charlie Kirk. You've seen that movement going around. And I think together we can actually do that for him in his honor.
Absolutely. You think about martyrdom, it's not something that we should be new to here, not only in our country, we've seen it happen, but also in the faith community. This is how the apostles ended up, right? They were obviously martyred for their beliefs. And I think there's a boldness that we carry forward going out as a faith community because we know where our ultimate resting place is. I want to kind of pivot a little bit to what the investigation is saying now about the shooter. And I don't pay him much homage here. We don't say his name or show his picture over and over again. But this is a good clip, I think, of FBI Director Kash Patel saying, listen, I want answers so fast. Like I constantly am reminded by the Deputy Director, Dan Bongino. He's like, give it the 72-hour rule, ladies. Like you all are you want it now, and it takes time to do investigations. But really, the FBI is turning around this investigation and uncovering things at a remarkable speed. I want to play a portion of what Kash Patel said on Fox News real quick.
Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 local time on September 10th. By 12:39 p.m. local time, FBI assets were on scene securing the scene. We then launched at 10 a.m. the next day the first images of the suspect. Myself and the deputy arrived at 5 p.m. local time on September 11th. And then what we did was decided to have a press conference at 8 p.m. local, where we issued for the first time FBI obtained video footage that we seized from the security camera surveillance system and new images, enhanced images. I decided to release immediately to the public because we were working with the public and the media to find this killer. Shortly after that 8 p.m. release, at 10 p.m. local time, the suspect was in custody. Why? Because the father informed us, pursuant to an interview of him, that he looked at the video that we released that evening and the enhanced photos and identified the suspect. That's how fast the FBI was working to put out information in real time. And for comparative sake, the Boston bombing, the FBI didn't release images for 3 days. We know we didn't have 3 days. I made an executive decision on an investigative and operational need, and it turned out to be the right move because the men and women of the FBI said that's what we should be doing.
There you go. This is why elections matter, people, because it's a top-down approach to who's going to head up these agencies. This is what I think we voted for. You can see a big difference in him acting and behaving like an executive. Were you shocked, Camden, to find out that it was his family really that that caught this and turned him in?
A little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little shocked, but I'm glad that the dad and the father worked with the minister and did the right thing. But
Yeah.
for Kash Patel, they originally like had a different suspect, and they thought that
Mhm.
was him. And I don't mind that, because I don't mind them even posting that, publishing it, because that it shows integrity, shows us that you're actually trying and working out things in real time. So we know that you have our interests at heart, you know. So I don't mind it, but I do think that moving forward, it's got to be less political and more on good versus bad, like they're doing right now with this investigation, getting
Right.
the bad people out.
Absolutely. And to think that there are people, we call them holdovers, that were got to their positions in the intelligence community under probably a different president. The idea is you serve out your 30, 35 years, whatever, before retirement in the intelligence community, because you don't really have any weight on either side of the aisle. It's much like the military, not supposed to be over politicized. And what I think Kash Patel is finding out is that that was not the case within the FBI, within the Hoover building. He's had to change that culture and now kind of right
Yeah.
the ship to be able to do what they do best. I agree. I do also want to play another snippet here, because this I just learned late last night. I did not realize there was, in fact, a note that the shooter left behind. It helps us get a little more detail of how isolated he was. And it talks more about these dark chat rooms that make you feel like you're larger than life, I think. Take
Yeah.
a listen to Kash Patel. We'll talk about it.
Did he write a written note before the assassination attempt? That's what the governor said yesterday. And what did that say? If you could.
So
share
what I'm
that
able
with
to
us?
say, I'm sorry. So what I'm able to say is I addressed it partially earlier, is that the written note, we believe, what did exist, and we have evidence to show what was in that note, which is, and I'm going to summarize, basically saying the suspect wrote a note saying, I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. That note was written before the shooting. Evidence of its existence, we now have learned, existed before the shooting, was in the location, in the suspect and partner's home. But we have since learned that the note, even though it has been destroyed, we have found forensic evidence of the note, and we have confirmed what that note says because of our aggressive interview posture at the FBI.
I certainly feel a little more comfortable knowing that there's somebody of that manner sitting at the head of the FBI. Does it surprise you that he looked at it like that, like he had a chance to almost do something that he felt many people would want him to do, and that's why he took the shot?
Yeah, I don't know. That you gotta get there's a certain thing that has to happen to you. This radicalized behavior, because it's one thing to hate the guy and hate a movement and whatever and disagree completely.
Yeah.
There's another whole step to actually doing something like this. And so I don't know what exactly goes on. I don't know if it's the colleges that ended up, influencing him, or if it was the transgender allegedly relationship he had, or whatever it is.
Right.
All these factors, something caused him to be so radical in a moment to literally take the shot, like he said in the note. But
Yeah.
props to Kash Patel for being on top of it, because this administration doesn't want to mess around with this kind of stuff.
No, we're definitely in the FO part of the administration. Find out. Listen, I love having somebody of your age on our show, because I do get a different perspective, just like in talking to my daughter, or when I go to school board meetings and you try to talk to different students. I'm wondering, though, if this young person, if you see pictures of the shooter, if you see pictures of him with his family, I think of my own family, right?
Yeah.
Like, Halloween costumes and, going on trips together. And then to see the end result, I can only imagine what that family is going through. But we have to
man.
have this conversation, I think, of the radicalization of our young people. We see it here, even in our local school district. Parents that end up going, I mean, it's okay for my child to maybe experiment and think of something different than I do for a little while. We call that, a deep search that you go through. But to come out of high school or even secondary education and be completely radicalized, do you think we need to take a harder look at, first of all, the funding that's behind this ideology? Is it going to our schools or our NGOs that affect our schools? And do we need to maybe look at what's the culture like on school campuses? I know you're a college student, so you could probably speak to that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it was something related to a college, because of how I see professors acting right now. I saw something, I don't know 100% who it was or when, what exactly they said, but there was a professor that was wishing death on Charlie Kirk's whole family and their kids and their kids. And so when I see things like that, I'm not surprised if this could be a factor related to it, because they are just hateful and violent in that movement. And I think we've known for a while now that there's an infiltration of indoctrination in our school systems. I mean, all the way back to elementary schools up till colleges. There's I don't know who's funding it, like you said, but we've got to look at those kind of questions, because you don't go like from, his mom posting great pictures of him and the family overnight to doing this kind of thing. Something happens to you.
Something happens. And I think part of what, we have sources inside the administration that will sometimes give us the nod that things are coming down the pike. You are going to be able to see more information about the funding of some of these organizations, these non-government organizations, and where they infiltrate and where they lead. And then to see the tentacles even stretch into your local school district with some of the NGOs, the non-government organizations there. I will tell you, even here in Sarasota County, Florida, it's real. There's millions of dollars being funneled to work to capture the minds and attention and soul of your children. And this is why, Allie and I always give this call to action. You're somebody of action, Camden, you always have been, but it's important for our viewers to know, are you a grandparent? Are you an aunt or uncle? Your kids maybe are older. You're wondering, what is there left for me to do? Your tax dollars go to fund your public schools and the public education in your neighborhood. You have a right as somebody who pays those taxes to know what's going on in the schools. And certain school districts that are trying to push really radical agendas, they hate nothing more than to see Joe Smith and Jane Smith sitting in the boardroom, just listening to what kind of policy they're passing. You don't even have to talk. Yeah. Your presence is enough. And it is your due diligence as somebody who funnels money to the schools. I was sitting in a school board meeting the other day, and I'm listening to somebody tell me, your kids aren't school aged. Why are you here? If our money as Christians, as people of faith community, if our money goes to support something that we don't believe in, we have a right and an obligation to speak up against that. So yeah. I hope that peacefully I see people across the country get more involved in your local schools, and I imagine on college campus as well.
Yeah, like you say, and I think it's General Flynn that always said it, local action creates national impact. It has to start locally. It has to start with people like you going to school board meetings and people like me going to college campuses and doing what we have to do in our local communities to spread that like a good virus that spreads across the nation, but it has to start somewhere, right?
It's the antidote, absolutely. Exactly. And you know what? We totally stole that from General Flynn, but it's okay. He gave us the nod. He was like, whatever.
It's a good quote.
It is a good quote, and it works, and it's true. And he was very, it was very foretelling for him to have that years and years and years ago. So our wonderful Vice President J.D. Vance didn't take Charlie Kirk's chair. They were very cautious about that, but he took the show yesterday at noon. He took over as the lead on the Charlie Kirk show as a guest host yesterday. But he shared some stories that shocked me, including how bystanders would treat his children as he walked through Disney World with them, and the things they would hurl and say to his 5-year-old. I'm going to mess up this word. It's unfathomable.
Yeah.
It's a lot of syllables. But this is why he took to the airways and said, listen, right now, I don't want to hear the word unity. Unity is almost impossible because you cannot stand hand in hand with something that's demon possessed. Take a listen to what he had to say, and then we'll talk about it.
There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree. Did you know But the George Soros Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, do you know they benefit from generous tax treatment? They are literally subsidized by you and me, the American taxpayer. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house built by the American family over 250 years. I am desperate for our country to be united in condemnation of the actions and the ideas that killed my friend. I want it so badly that I will tell you a difficult truth. We can only have it with people who acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, and when we work to dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism in our own country.
2028, man. That's all I'm gonna say. Like,
Yeah. That's called righteous anger. That's something that you have a right sometimes to speak in that kind of tone, because when you're right. He's exactly right. You can't have unity with people that shout death on people and celebrate death and shout at children and cuss at them and say evil things about their family. You can't have unity with that. Those people, yeah, they can be transformed by Jesus, but you can't have unity with them at the moment. You can't just say, I keep seeing on social media people saying, I disagree with them, but this shouldn't be okay. You don't have to start by saying you disagree with him to think that something was wrong. You don't have to say that. It's just a given. I don't care who you are, what party or whatever. You should never normalize something like this, let alone celebrate it. And the people I see online right now, it's good versus evil. It's so evident right now. It's the contrast is so sharp.
absolutely. And the craziest thing is, and this is why Brandon Straka out of New York is he's so successful with the walkaway movement. Allie and I talk about it a lot here on the show. People that are leaving the Democrat platform in droves because they cannot identify with this extreme ideology that has taken over. It's not just infiltrated the left, it has taken over the party. We no longer have a real sane and safe two-party system here in our country. And part of what he does by embracing those who want to walk away from the Democrat platform, as they say, or plantation, as Allie says, part of coming out of that is realizing, listen, they see the rhetoric and the fact that it is evil in nature. Anytime it's Marxist, Maoist, Leninist, I mean, you can say all the isms and ists. When it identifies the same as that, we no longer are living in a culture where we can deny that current modern day Hitler sympathizers in their brain are hiding this as a sex cult revolution. And again, it's the same thing we've seen in other countries. We've helped institute it. General Flynn has talked about this, the color revolutions that we've been a part of in other countries to help overthrow the government because we don't agree with the leadership. Like that or not, it's something we've participated in. It's come to our soil here, which is why I appreciated this next story when they actually talked about Antifa, because some of the writings in the shell casings alluded to Antifa, an anti-fascist sort of mentality, and really embracing these organizations as what they are, terrorist organizations. Let's take a listen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, please.
Yes. Given all the that's going on with Charlie Kirk's assassination and the left-wing violence going on, do you have plans, and actually this is a great opportunity with all these people, do you plan on designating Antifa finally a domestic terror organization?
Well, it's something I would do, yeah. If I have support from the people back here, I think we'd start with Pam, I think. But I would, if you give me, I would do that 100%, and others also, by the way. But Antifa is terrible.
Are there other groups that you can think of?
There are other groups, yeah, there are other groups. We have some pretty radical groups, and they got away with murder. And also, I've been speaking to the Attorney General about bringing RICO against some of the people that you've been reading about that have been putting up millions and millions of dollars for agitation. These aren't protests. These are crimes, what they're doing, where they're throwing bricks at cars of ICE and Border Patrol. And they come in with a beautiful new car. They're so proud. It's Border Patrol, ICE, it's got whatever it is. And they're
I mean, there you have it. Donald Trump kind of gets the spur of the moment. I love that he keeps the press in his cabinet meetings because most presidents are not so bold to do that. When you only speak the truth, you have nothing to hide. So he comes out and says, yeah, we should look at these Antifa organizations, affiliates, and those who are funding it. What do you think?
I think it should have been done in 2020, to be honest. After Black Lives Matter riots, we saw so many people that weren't even the protesters that were funded by Antifa and organizations like that.
Right.
And this time, I feel like it's much the same. But I like what Elon Musk said. The left is the party of murder, and it's not just the people, it's the organizations that are funding them, like Antifa. And the funny thing is about these bullet casings and all that. Charlie Kirk was the opposite of a fascist. He literally wanted to hear your opinion and talk to you and
Yes.
let you talk. That's the opposite of fascism. So I don't know what kind of message that sends, but something is just not adding
I was
up
like,
at all.
maybe the public school system failed in
Yeah,
some way, if that's what you really
what?
think a fascist is. It's true. And I can imagine the shooter's families even scratching their head going, I don't understand this, how he got so radicalized. One of the people that we love in the administration, and shout out to him, because he is not only borderline genius, but he's eloquent with his words, is Stephen Miller. He's a part of Trump's cabinet. He has come out and said that nonprofits that organize political violence will be held accountable. I almost want everybody across the nation who's thinking of hosting your next whatever, to try to radicalize the youth, take account. They understand what's going on in this country, and they are coming for you. Take a listen to Stephen Miller.
Yeah, so I believe what you're referring to is there are these nonprofit entities that organize, as the president mentioned, attacks on ICE officers, attacks on Border Patrol agents, organized doxing campaigns, which are a violation of federal law. They break off cement and they bring into riots. They have organized drop points for weapons, organized drop points for gas masks, organized drop points for all the materials necessary to launch a riot. Of course, you saw that during the Black Lives Matter riots as well, too. So there's this whole network of organizations. And I think the key point the president's been making is somebody is paying for all of this. This is not happening for free. And so under the president's direction, the attorney general is going to find out who is paying for it, and they will now be criminally liable for paying for violence.
Ooh.
He's good.
Criminally liable for paying for violence. Listen, this is no different than a judge, in my opinion, who legislates from the bench and decides to let a hardened criminal out. Remember what happened in Charlotte with the stabbing of that beautiful young girl? Let this guy out 14 times. You know what? There should be some accountability there. And I love this with NGOs. Watch out. Watch what you're funding.
If you're soft on crime, like the left continuously is, that's your result. You get these murders on trains. You get assassinations. You get things that you probably would have expected if you are funding and planting weapons. Like Antifa, I know that it was at some point in 2020 putting rocks and different things down for people to pick up and throw. Like if you are funding violence, you should be criminally liable. So I agree with him. He's spot on right there.
And that's why I tell people the next 3.5 years or 3 years, buckle up, because it's almost like we're in this Renaissance period of complete revelation. We've been praying for it. Lord, bring the things that are done in the dark that we're not understanding or that aren't reaching our eyes to be able to bring it to light. Bring it to light. We want to know, because we want to build, on earth as it is in heaven. And in order to have that, I know it's not the end game, because we're all going to end up in heaven anyway, those of us that believe. So I understand that we're going to see trouble in our land, but that doesn't mean that as Christians we shouldn't try to kind of see that laid out here. We're going to have a quick soundbite from Kid Rock, of all people. I mean, it's entertaining. But first, Camden, I want to make sure we get to a commercial break. If you want to support something that launches free speech, guys, you need to make every attempt to please support Patriot TV, including Open Mic Ladies. We're going to let you know how you can do that. Here's a word from our affiliates. We'll be right back with more Open Mic.
From the heart of Marietta, Georgia, comes a tribute to the spirit of liberty. Liberty Cigars, where history meets craftsmanship. Each cigar tells a story. The Founders Collection honors the visionaries who shaped a nation. The President's House Collection celebrates the leaders who steered it. And the Naval Series salutes the heroes who defended it. Handcrafted with precision, each blend mirrors the essence of its namesake. From the boldness of George Washington to the elegance of Thomas Jefferson. Indulge in a moment of reflection. Light a Liberty cigar and savor the legacy. Discover your story at libertycigars.com, because every great nation deserves a great cigar. Liberty Cigars, smoke the history. And don't forget to use promo code OpenMic for 10% off your order.
Gold IRA companies are a dime a dozen, especially in conservative media. We vetted out 34 companies and chose Augusta Precious Metals.
With the lowest across-the-board spreads in the gold IRA industry, Augusta saves Americans thousands of dollars.
They are the only major gold IRA company that has zero complaints from their customers. Zero. None. Augusta Precious Metals does not have commissioned sales reps, which means their goals are aligned with yours.
They were the only gold IRA company that demonstrated integrity and transparency without using gimmicks.
The informative one-on-one web conferences by Augusta Precious Metals answer all of their customers' questions before they make a move.
If you're ready to learn about protecting your wealth and retirement with gold and silver, request your free gold guide from Augusta Precious Metals today.
Visit patriot.tv/gold. That's patriot.tv/gold today.
I'm proud to be an open mic lady today.
And to be honest, we know what a lady is, but he's filling a big seat right now.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, we do have somebody that's reached out through, I believe it's Rumble, that said, love open mic ladies, but love this young gentleman who's really bringing. And Camden, that's part of why I'm so glad that you, not only that we met, and for those that don't know, like Camden feels a lot like a son to me because of the way we met and how long we've known each other, but just really proud to see what you're doing. I want to remind our viewers, make sure you follow at Michelle Posey, at Real Allie Leger, and at Camden Trey B on all social media platforms, and at Open Mic Ladies. We need you to like, share, and subscribe. Camden, if you could just real quick, before we get to the Kid Rock story, if you could let our viewers know, you wrote a book recently. And I love that you took a bold stance on this. And in this time and day of this gender confusion and gender ideology, and we're pretending we don't know what a woman is, tell us about your book, the inspiration behind it, and where people can get it.
Yeah, well, it's called Fearless Masculinity. It's about embracing the man that God created you to be. And in a world, like you said, that has said that masculinity is toxic, that men are women, women are men, and all these crazy lies, I felt the need in a spot for my generation and for other generations to step up and speak up, to say, no, there's a truth. There's an objective truth from God. There's a way to live our lives. And I was just telling this story the other day that one of the last memories I have with Charlie was he was one of the biggest inspirations behind this book. And I signed one for him as a gift, and I brought it to Turning Point's event. And yeah. I walked around all the last day looking for him. I kind of just stepped out of the speakers room and looked for him the whole time because I wanted to give him this book. And I finally found his security detail, and I said, "Can you give this book to Charlie?" And they said, I'll do whatever I can." So I don't know if he ever got it. I hope he saw the impact he had on me. But if you like what he stood for, then you're going to like what I stand for, because he's spoken directly into me. So Fearless Masculinity is what the book is called. That's what it's about. And you can find it at camdenbettinghouse.square.site, or just Google Fearless Masculinity.
Amazing. And we've shown on our show here before the interaction that you've had with Charlie Kirk. And just what I loved about it is that, yes, he debated people openly who didn't agree with him, but to think that we on the right or on the conservative movement all agree on every item that's foolish, right? Yeah. We don't. So even on the right, we need to be able to have dialogue. And some of the things that you were able to discuss with him were, listen, I like you, Charlie Kirk. I like most of what you believe, but I have a question for you. Why do you believe this? Or explain this to me. And he did that better than anybody at that time, because he understood what the Bible directs us to always have an answer. To always have an answer when people ask you, where do you find your hope? How do why are you, why do you believe what you believe? You should be occupied with an answer to be able to give that back. He did that better than anybody. But I think part of what we have as a problem in our culture, and I want to get your take on this, is mainstream media.
Yes.
When you look at the little cable boxes that were in every single home not that long ago, and you've got 4 or 5, maybe 6 at the most, mainstream news organizations that were all saying likely the same thing, then birthed, social media, like it or love it or hate it, including platforms like X, Patriot TV, or streaming platforms. Now we're seeing a takeover of what people consider news, and we're able to get more of a variant of opinion. But Kid Rock somebody who I might not agree with everything, but when he can see it, y'all, when he can see the crap coming out of the mainstream media, I love how he said this. Let's take a quick listen, then I want to get your response.
I've said it and I'll say it again because I think it needs to be echoed until they get it through their fat skulls. The mainstream media is freaking public enemy number one right now. Just the clips you just ran of these people from the New York Times and these other nut houses they call media establishments. It's absolutely freaking ridiculous. I mean, and then they say that, Charlie Kirk, God bless him, by the way, his wife, kids, that, he's inciting this, he's inciting that. I'm someone who understands better than anyone as being a very vocal Trump supporter from day one. They've called me a racist Nazi for years now. I mean, go look up a few facts about my life, my children, where everything. But other people start to echo this. Just people who write dumb articles who think, I'm trash and they hate my music and they say he's just a racist Nazi. And, this starts to build and build and build. So you get these nut house kids who are doing nothing but playing video games, watching these occult movies that are all over our streaming services that won't go outside to play any sports or anything. And, then they think they're going to do something good. I'm going to go kill a Nazi. I'm going to go kill a racist. And they're literally mentally deranged. We need to bring the freaking nut houses back.
Yeah, you're incentivizing these loner kids to take shots so they can be heroes. And then every time after.
Yeah, he says bring back the and he says nut houses. But I know what he's saying. He's saying, we are normalizing things that we didn't normalize in the past. We can have all the compassion we want for people who suffer with these instabilities, but that doesn't mean that we treat it as normal or we agree with something that we see as a lie. Mainstream media is selling that narrative largely today too. What do you think?
Yeah. So if you listen to CNN or MSNBC, whatever you listen to every day, you are going to hear the same things over and over. And if you hear Trump is a threat to democracy every single day, you hear Trump is a Nazi, Hitler every single day, over and over and over and over, you're gonna believe it eventually. It's called brainwashing. And I like how PBD says it, Patrick Bet-David, he says that you're gonna be brainwashed by something. Everyone is brainwashed by something. But you need to diversify a little bit, listen to other things, because if you're listening to one thing, that goes for us too. You are going to start to just pick up these patterns and stuff. And so the left, I don't think you can just say it's like, oh, it's right and left that does this. When the left constantly says that we are Hitler, Nazis, and crazy, deranged, just fascists, and all these words they say, that's an attack on us. It's not just the face like Trump or Charlie Kirk. The thing about Charlie Kirk is he was one of us. That's why it felt so impactful. When they say things like that to us, they're talking about him. They're talking to us too. And so the media is a huge part of that in saying these things over and over.
And, it makes you wonder if and we've talked about this when we covered the Russia hoax, which still more information coming out about that constantly. What role does the media play and what accountability do they have? Like, you don't just have the right. First Amendment is wonderful. We're grateful for it here on this platform, but I can't go into a crowded room and yell fire.
Yeah.
Because that poses a serious threat to people. So we have to look at, where is the ethics in journalism? Where did that go? Because I'm not sure that I've seen it reflected in anything that I've watched on mainstream media in a long time. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. Well, actually, no, I do want to show this next bite because I think it's important as we're talking about all that's gone wrong. It's important that we remember the man, Charlie Kirk. Obviously, what I love about him is he always tried to point people as they talked about Charlie Kirk to his face about how wonderful he was. He always pointed people to Jesus because he was not somebody that was perfect. None of us are. But this is, I want to just show this one piece, the difference of just one man, and then we'll get your reaction to it. Take a look.
Get comfortable, bring the best libs that Utah has to offer. Counting or not counting gang violence?
If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea.
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith.
Man,
I was saying, I think that young kid in the street with the American flag could be you.
that's what I was gonna say. I got chills watching that, and you see that kid with the glasses. That's how I feel. Right, I literally feel just like that, and I know millions of people do too. That's a good, accurate representation.
It is. It's a good depiction, and I love that. That's one of the good things that AI can do is kind of make
Yeah.
those short clips. That's pretty fun to watch. We're going to skip ahead because while we're talking about Charlie Kirk and the amazing effect he's had, not just on culture but in our movement for America First. I won't even call it Republican. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Charlie had his own struggles with the Republican Party.
Mhm.
And the Republican Party platform, just as Donald Trump did. So that's why it's a voice and a mission and a sound and a message that went directly to the heart of Americans and to freedom-loving people. It's not so much political, but
And his wife, I mean, she is the strongest person, man. I can't believe how she was able to speak like that when she gave her message and was able to really. I think they must have talked about it before. Like, we got to carry this on if something happens, And she's done perfectly. I mean, you got to have God with you to speak like that after something like this.
That's so true. There was a moment in that where she touched his chair
Mm.
and then she looked at the camera and her eyes changed.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like it was brave.
Yeah,
it was brave beyond all things. But I want people out there to know this is great that we're memorializing Charlie Kirk, but there is still a fight to be a battle to be won. And I don't mean fight as in, something that you do physically. I'm talking, it is spiritual, but it does require your hands and feet. New York City is very close to falling to the most radical of radicals. We just celebrated, remember, they had the anniversary of 9/11. When we would never imagine somebody being allowed to stand in the streets of New York City and shout death to America or everything that we stand for. And yet, in the words and in the actions of Mamdani, can't ever pronounce his name right, whatever. He is on the heels of being elected, potentially, into the New York City mayor position. Kiss Broadway goodbye. Kiss all the wonderful things you love about culture in New York City. He will change it forever, and they will copy and paste it in every major city throughout the nation. This is an important election. Somebody that's not so quick to walk away from the blue state of New York and from the blue city of New York City is Brandon Strzok. I want you to take a look, if we could, in the control room. We're going to go to Get Out the Vote, New York City. If you could take a look at this post by Brandon Strzok that he made. Obviously, as we're all mourning Charlie Kirk, this is important for us to remember. He says we have 7 weeks until Election Day in New York City. If 1,000 people, guys, step up and commit to reaching 100 voters a week, he's narrowing it down. Listen, this is you sending 14 texts a day through their app. You'll reach 700,000 people. They need an army. And what they're saying is, listen, all we're wanting you to do, Democrat, Republican, indifferent, is say vote for anyone but Mamdani. Anyone but. All of the above. You can choose anyone. Because at this point, Democrat or Republican, anybody is better than him. What do you think about somebody staying in that blue area, Camden, and not choosing to come to sunny Florida, but saying, no, this area is still worth fighting for?
Yeah, it is. New York City is New York City. It's the business capital of the world, and that's what they're fighting for right now. So many businesses will move out of there if Mamdani wins, and I've never seen how important a mayoral race is until this one, because it really can change a city, and all the things that he stands for is anti-business, anti-America. It literally just doesn't make sense with the structure of how America works with what he talks about. And yes, he's charismatic. I will say he was like he
so
knows
was
how to
Barack
talk.
Obama.
Yeah,
Ugh.
exactly. It's a thing that they have, but it doesn't mean that your country and your city is going to be better because of a way someone talks. It's just not the same thing as action. And so I think it's a little dangerous. And also if you have multiple candidates as well, like if the vote gets divided, then that could still lead to him getting the majority of the vote. So I hope that people come together and vote for one specific candidate over him. And I think that someone's got to drop out of the race. And so it's just 1 versus 1, and then everyone can try to vote against him.
Right. And part of what we're saying here is, and you guys can go to, you can just Google walkaway movement if you want to help. This is actually a national race. It affects your front doorstep, because if you don't believe that they will, this is a trial right now to see if they can get this extremist elected. If they're successful, say goodbye to your Tampas, say goodbye to, well, Chicago, you obviously have LA, but every state, every red state across America, think of your big cities and how they're mostly Democrat run. You are thinking of trying to get the worst of the worst, most extremists at a time when we need to be dialing back on that rhetoric. And so this is why I urge everybody to join the walkaway movement, help them by donating. Listen, you can use their app. Your phone number doesn't come up when you send the text. You can send 14 texts a day to people within New York City. This will help to make sure that Mamdani does not get elected.
Yeah.
I know we're, go ahead.
If you're in New York City and you want to own a business or own a house, Mamdani wants to abolish private property. Like, you can't those two things can't coexist. So if all it takes is if you want to own a house or a business, then vote against him. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Absolutely. And I just want to let our viewers know as we say goodbye today, but there's one last piece I want to show, and it is to our tech booth. It is the very last asset, another strong voice. This is Brandon Strzok, again, in New York City, fighting to save New York City. We don't agree on every single thing, but do I dearly love him and the fact that he's doing this? Absolutely. This is what we need to have awakened from sea to shining sea, literally, as an America First movement. Take a listen to this, and then we'll do a send-off for our audience. Take a look.
They have censored us. They have suppressed us. They have deplatformed us. They have bullied us. They have threatened us. They have intimidated us. Hell, they put me in jail for a crime that I did not commit. They tried to assassinate President Trump, and they murdered Charlie Kirk this week. They tried to create fear, but instead, they created fire. They have ignited an inferno with the voice of freedom ringing from coast to coast all across this country. The fire that they have created is burning, and it is burning brightly. They have no idea what they have done and what they have created. USA! USA! Let them hear it. Let them hear it all throughout the borough of Queens and all throughout the great city of New York City. Let them hear it. Let them hear the spirit and the voice of freedom that has been unleashed. They have no idea what they have done and what they have created. Fight! 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 Charlie, we will continue the fight from here.
Wow. And he says, we'll continue the fight from here. Listen, New York City, the streets that so eloquently Alexander Hamilton walked. Okay, this is worth fighting for. Any last words, Camden, before we let our audience go?
Yeah, I don't know much about him, but I loved that message. I mean, this is the time to fight right now. And not physically, like you said, but at the ballot box. You have to go and use your voice like Charlie did and what he would want you to do. Talk to those people that don't disagree, that don't agree with you on these issues, and also vote, text people like they said. But this is a very important race, and I really hope that people wake up before it's too late.
Absolutely. We have midterms coming up in 2026. Don't sit this out just because there's not a presidential candidate on the ticket. You have something to, if you voted for Donald Trump in 2024, he needs you in 2026 to make sure you help candidates get out the vote and make sure that you yourself vote. Guys, that's it for us for Open Mic. We're hoping we can maybe go to 2 hours. I know, we need 2 hours. And I always thought it was just because it was two women. But
no, it was still fast. It was fun.
Very fast. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks, Camden.
And I don't care how they look at me in the deepest heart of a blue city. Red hat stays on. Red hat stays on. And I know when you smile, you like what you see. If you love America, you'll agree.